I want to put in my book.
I just did it from my phone. I was trying to, if y'all emailed me, I could have did it from my computer, but I just pulled it up from my phone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries. Hey. Hey, everyone.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Hold on.
It's a pretty picture.
Yeah, yes. So I'm going to go ahead. Lainey, you're recording us now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just, So welcome to Two Girls with the Mic. I'm Crystal.
I'm Lena.
Hi, ladies.
Hello. And on this episode, we will be interviewing Quintaria Brunson from the Brunson Approach. And I love her quote that she has: "My future generations are financially free, not financially frustrated." Quintaria is an activist, a realtor, a strategist, a business credit spokeswoman, and board member. She is dedicated to dismantling stereotypes by speaking truth to power. I am committed to the identification of Black men by joining them in the forefront of our relationships, family, and community. That is a quote from Quintaria Brunson. She constructs plans that educate, empower her tribe to build a family legacy through profitable businesses and the acquisition of real estate. So join us as we talk to Quintaria Brunson just about her in general. So Quintaria, introduce yourself.
I am. Give me 1 second. I finally cut off. Boom, I finally got my, I sent it over to my computer. Okay,
oh, yeah.
Introduce myself?
Yes, tell us about Quintaria Brunson.
Well, my name is Quintaria Brunson, and I am a community leader first. Before anything else, I always lead with I'm a community leader. I love my tribe, meaning people that are the descendants of American slaves. I love others too, but I start with my tribe. We were deprived of so much was taken from us, and I am committed to pouring back into my tribe. Quite frankly, I feel that there are a lot of things that we need to work on, but what I'm good at is I'm a strategist and I'm a businesswoman. So I pour back in the space and place that I do well at, and that's business and real estate. A lot of people say that I'm very encouraging as well too. I do believe that when God made me, he dropped a set of pom-poms somewhere, down in there. But I use that encouragement just to educate and edify, and for the edification of the Black family and us growing businesses and things of that matter. My grandmother owned multiple properties. Her father left her with land, and growing up in Detroit and spending time in Nashville, Tennessee, like many people around me, they all rented or they didn't necessarily own much. And as a child, you really don't know what the distinction is. I just knew I knew that there was a security in my family that was different from others. And although I'm not saying like we was just balling out of control, like but I will say that I do believe that the piece of security that we had that may not have been around others was that home ownership, was knowing that even if we lived in Detroit, we had land down south. We have not always done right by that, that's another reason why I'm a big legacy person, is because in our community, when stuff is left to us, because many of us don't have much, or even those of us who, like I said, my grandmother had things, but it was kind of like, it wasn't necessarily shared in a way for her children or her grandchildren or great grandchildren to really learn how to manage it, how to keep the taxes up on it, how to do, it's like, so that must end. And I'm a firm believer that in order to be wealthy, in order to have a legacy worth leaving in the United States, the two vessels to do that is through businesses and through real estate. Setting up your own EINs, LLCs, in corporations, that's how the wealthy do it. And if we're going to mimic how others create their wealth, we need to do it in similar fashion. And then real estate. My grandmother used to always say, buy more land because they're not making more of it. And the same is true 40 some odd years later.
That is true.
And to speak on that, because I was in a similar situation, my great grandmother, she owned the land her house was on, and then she had duplexes behind her house and used to rent them out. She even had a store that she used to sell things out of. So she was really, she really influenced my mother to become a business person, a landowner, to have multiple forms of revenue coming in and things like that. So I definitely understand that. And I definitely understand when you were referring to how people don't understand the importance of paying your taxes, how these major corporations have people staked out at courthouses to look to see
snatch it from you.
Right.
Yes.
And they get it on pennies for a dollar, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
You know. So
there were so many obstacles. But the older I get, the more I realize I'm like revolution, power to the people, because in all honesty, that was not necessarily my stance, or you wouldn't have made me think that, like, my mother was a Black activist and spoke Swahili, took Africana studies and all that. So I was around it, but the older I get and the more I understand and see the violations that occurred in the Black community and all of the mismanagement of our funds intentionally, going back to what you said, people waiting on the courthouse steps, like we were denied as a realtor. I can go back and look, and you all, it's public records, but I can pull up deeds to this day that says, do not resell to Negro, Black, like we were denied a vast amount of spaces that we could not get in. And then we were left with places that, because they made our housing so scarce, because they made that the land we could buy so scarce, we paid 3, 4, 5 times more than it. And they put us on land contracts and all of these type of things. And where you could hit a 20-year land contract for the average Black family who was able to, miraculously figure out how to purchase, they would put them on a land contract because they couldn't get the mortgage, but someone who didn't look like them could secure the same mortgage and then lease it to them, a lease option, and we're going to talk about rent to own now, because a lot of this is the same type things with new names, but they would put them on land contracts, and it's a 20-year land contract, 15-year land contract. If you miss one payment,
take it away.
They take it all, take it back. So and that's why we were stereotypically seen as overcrowding. And back in the day, now you can't get to Black families to see, like, what, you come to visit.
I feel most comfortable when I'm around look, during these times I need to be around my Black families, because I'm a little afraid to be around too many of them.
Yeah.
So
but that's why we had to double up families, triple up families, because we were paying double, triple the amount and making a mere fraction of that. And those wrongs and injustices, like it's like, I have a whole bunch that I could say about that. But one thing I will say is to educate yourself now, to commit yourself now to saying, like, I wasn't there 70 years ago, 100 years ago. It definitely has an impact on me. But 70 years from today, my great grandchildren will have something from it. Something, so that every generation, we don't have to hit Control Alt Delete and start completely over. And that is the sad thing that happens in our communities. We have very little or no legacy or nothing to pass down, so we keep having to start over and over and over.
Or even if we do, we don't understand the laws that is behind wills, probates. When you pass away, if you don't have a will designating something and it goes to your family, your entire family is split up, and then people could come and buy your share and this share, and soon they'll have close to half the shares to just take over your property. So it's important to even just know the laws of your state and what's behind land and how to protect it for those future generations. So I'm all about that too, making sure my kids know everything. So what they need to know and have what they need to know in order to keep what I provide.
And giving them opportunities so that when they are left, you know, a large, it goes another generation or two that they add to it. Not that, because the goal isn't for me to build a legacy for y'all just to sit and eat off of. Like, I want you all to, you know, like, I don't want you to start from zero. But if I leave you 100, I want you to multiply that to 1,000. Exactly. And your kids multiply that to 10,000, and so on and so on.
That is true. So when did you get into real estate?
I've been in real estate, in all honesty, for most all my life. As I said, as a little girl, watching my grandmother, you know, she owned 7 properties or so, in addition to having land, a large amount of land down south. And so being around that and seeing that and hearing terms and jargon around that. In my early 20s, I may have been 21, 22, somewhere in that ballpark. I had 3 daughters, so my youngest wasn't born yet, so I'm trying to think of, like, how old was I around that time? But I started a company called Top Notch Properties. Boy, oh boy, what I've learned a lot in the 20 years since then. But nonetheless, that property, I purchased homes and was renting them out, kind of being the buy and hold type structure back then. So for about 20 years, I've been in real estate. But for the last 5 years, I've been a licensed realtor in Maryland and DC.
Okay, so, and I noticed recently I've been seeing you doing lives with talking about business credit, and I have learned so much information from you and what you're talking about. So one, I want to say thank you for sharing within our community, because I feel like we need this. Like, we need someone that look like us and that is saying, this is what you need to do to build a legacy, like you just said, to pass down to generation to generation to generation. So how did you get into doing business coaching, business credit? And just go ahead and give us a little background on what you talk with. I mean, how do you do it? Like, I know you do classes as well, but what do you do as far as reaching people to tell them about your business coaching, business credit program?
I'm cheesing from ear to ear, because I love the opportunities that business credit brings. And it's such opportunity because very few people really know what business credit is. A lot of people think they know, but but they're misusing it in so many ways that's actually putting them at a disadvantage. But I was first exposed to business credit years ago. I was the assistant to a few CEOs and nonprofits. I very early on, when I started my, when I entered the workforce, I became a grant writer, and I have a degree in accounting. So I started in the, like, doing the payroll and stuff like that. And then people would see, like, oh, okay, she's a little savvy. So long story short, I started having to attend the board meetings when they would, because I wrote the grant or managed many of the grants and funding for these companies, I would have to attend board meetings. And I just started hearing things that I was not hearing in my community. And it was things that it didn't sound that complex, but I was mesmerized because I wasn't hearing it in my community. So having to set up certain accounts and secure funding for businesses, there came a time, and I'm just gonna, I don't know if it said it in my bio, but I'm gonna keep it all the way 100 with y'all. I was as a single mom, and things started to get challenging, and my personal credit sucked. Like, I couldn't buy a pencil on my personal credit. I started, and I've always had an entrepreneur spirit. I've always, ventured out. Like I said, 21, 22, I had already started a company, and my family, girl, we don't know what you're doing. And I was just like, I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, I can do it, but long story short, so I started dabbling in getting accounts for myself, and lo and behold, the system worked, and the one of the things that I love about business credit is what people don't realize is, this goes back to I'm gonna take a step back. I'm an avid reader, and I have not had a television in my home for nearly a decade. So
since I met you.
yeah, yeah. So I don't do television or like now with so much on the internet, like I can pull things up from my computer if I want, but I don't constantly have a TV streaming and have not had it in nearly a decade. But I read. I read or I listen to audiobooks and the formation of corporations dating back to Europe and when the Spanish fleets were coming here from Europe and all that, and they would make the ships a corporation and all of that. That is such a phenomenal way to generate wealth, because every time you get every time you set a corporation up or get an EIN, you have a brand new baby. You have a brand new social security number, just to put it in layman's terms so people can follow along with me. And you can set that baby with a new social security number up to get resources, to secure financing, to cover you from liability and all of those things. So oftentimes, and it's a new strategy that again is not often discussed, not only in our population. What I love about business credit is many people who don't look like us don't understand it either. The rich and the wealthy. This is a green and who don't have green. Like this is the wealthy and those who have money and those who don't type thing. But those who are making millions of dollars understand that you put nothing or very little in your personal name, or you're thoughtful about that. But in order to protect yourself, to protect your assets, and to grow your wealth, you need corporations in order to do that. So being exposed to it very early on, like in my early 20s, like I said, when I entered the workforce, and me applying for credit, for businesses, and I'm not using anybody's social, I'm just applying for the business. It allowed me to see like, no, you actually can do this. And after 20 some odd years of living off of business credit, when I say from apartments to cars to you name it, I have been able to achieve, like business credit was the lifeline of my life. And now that my children are older and, like going about, like I'm not a single mom in the sense of, I got an 11 and a 12 and a 7-year-old anymore, like they're in their 20s at this point. But now I'm doing things that like are just like unbelievable, that building businesses. I think right now I have at least 4 businesses that have excellent business credit. We, trade lines, you name it, under it. But it's such a simple system, not easy. People want things that are just easy, like, oh yeah, you just look to the east and money gonna fall out. No, it doesn't quite work like that. But it's a simple system that once you can shift your mind out of a consumer mindset, business credit is the absolute way to go for anyone owning a business. And I think that now, and I'm gonna get on a soapbox on this. I feel like business owners don't do it because they're either lazy or they're really fearful. Like they really fear how much they can actually, expand. And in real talk, they may just want to be small. It's like I want to talk big, but I really don't want to be big. And I've noticed that, especially being a business coach. People don't think 10 years out. Like, what are you starting a business for? And you hadn't even thought 10 years from now. What, like, if this just a 6-month project, why waste your money registering with the state? I'm just being honest. Like, what's the
That's
point?
true.
You might
right, because it's only a project. It doesn't need to be registered because, like you said, it's only 6 months.
Yeah,
but like the business part.
But if you really are setting up a business, you should think long term and take advantages of the opportunities out there. And then the other part is just sheer laziness or lack of motivation. I have and I was gonna do, that new TikTok that everybody's doing where they be chill and it's doom doom.
Yeah, I want to do one too.
I was gonna do that about business credit, and I was like, nah, because I may offend people. But people will text me or call me and question me, will nickel and dime me to death. And it's like, why don't you just either allow me to coach you or pay for the business credit course? Instead of sending me 20 texts. So should I have a landline as a fax or no? Okay, now where's the best website to register my? It's like, I love
Honey,
y'all.
that calls. That
But
calls.
anybody that knows me, I'm so dedicated to uplifting people, and I know how it feels to be to have a goal and you feel like stuck. So I don't mind answering questions, but on the flip side, it's like if you're not willing to invest in making sure the foundation of your business is solid and it has what it needs, I don't know if that product should really be in the atmosphere anyway.
That is correct. That is definitely correct. So when you're teaching your business credit course, what are some of the things that you cover? Like what are some of the business pieces that, especially if you're a new business? Well, let me
Gotcha.
take that back. If you're new to the business field, like you heard things, but someone who needs to know from the beginning to the end, and is it structured for like new people, like what we call them newbies, or is it
Yeah.
structured?
Well, Crystal, what I'll tell you is this: the ironic thing is I've helped people who've been in business 20, 25 years and never set up business credit.
Yeah.
Dentists, like because so many of us just operate from a consumer mindset and our personal, because think about it, now more recently people are talking about business credit, but again, I've been in and around business credit for over 20 years now. I remember
Right.
when like that, like now it's starting to trend, but so many people are still doing it from a consumer mindset. But think about how often you hear about your personal credit, getting your personal credit up. Even when I
Mm-hmm.
speak to banking institutions and institutions that you would think should know about business credit, I have to educate them. I've had very intense conversations with bankers when they try to tell, oh no, you can't do that. And I'm like, I'm doing it, like, but for them, all they know
Right.
is because 90% of the population is operating under consumer credit. They think that everything that they have, that all of their wealth rests on what their personal credit looks like. And do not get it twisted. And I had a revelation, because for quite some time I was like anti-personal credit. Like, when you go so long without using your personal credit, you feel like you don't need it. Like, I done figured out how to live without it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have switched from that model, and that, like I said, we all are growing, and I've switched from that. I do believe that you want a toolbox that you can use anything that's at your disposal. So that's more, however, please be clear and understand, you do not and should not mix your personal credit with business entities. And I don't care if it takes you 2 years to set it up. Look at it this way. If Target Corporation wants to open a new store, do you think they're asking the manager of the store on 123 Main Street for his or her social to apply for the other one? Do you even think maybe
Nope.
the CEO is putting his social security down to apply? No. Target Corporation, on the strength and merit of Target Corporation, is applying for credit on its own. And that's all I want people to understand. Like, I don't know whether you don't have the patience, or like you just can't believe things that you've never done before. But if you think of it that way, when you think of, McDonald's or Amazon, like all of these companies, they're not using the CEO's credit to extend that business. They're using the business's credit, and it can be done. Now, like I said, in the last 20 years, it definitely has changed. It used to be very easy to get business credit, and now it isn't hard. It just isn't. You have to, it's a few things that you have to kind of prove. But on average, if you set your company up right, in less than a year, you can have stellar business credit. I literally set up a company in November of last year, right before 2020 ended. The business credit is 0 to 100. On February 1st, that company is already at a 78, which is considered excellent credit. So it doesn't take a long time to build business credit. Now, that doesn't mean that a company that's 4 months old can go out and ask for a $500,000 loan just yet, but you have to build it, so that you can get to that point.
Now, what is one thing that you would recommend? Those is the first thing that you would recommend that someone should do when they want to start their own business?
Do the research. Do the research. Let me tell you something about behind the scenes when it comes to business. The number one reason why businesses fail is not due to lack of capital. As a matter of fact, oftentimes I'll have coaching clients who come to me for coaching. And in all honesty, when I go through their business plan, or oftentimes they haven't written it, and we go through like drafting a business plan, they have all tons of revenue opportunities there. They just needed to formulate it right. But the number one reason businesses fail is because they are offering a product or service to individuals that don't want it and didn't ask for it. We get a good idea in our head and we wait and say, oh, I got it. Everybody want red contacts because my complexion, it'll match. Everybody want, and we want to force it on the world that you want red contacts instead of asking a general, because profitable businesses solve a problem, period. So if you don't figure out, and you may even, there may even be a need. I've had to tell many of my coaching clients, make sure that you are positioning your product in front of the people that need it. But so many people, due to ignorance, greed, and fear, they want to be something to everyone. Very few people want to, when I coach clients on building an avatar, and I'm like, an avatar is a human. Like that is just like the makeup of a human. So an avatar isn't, okay, women from 35 to 50. My name is Quintaria and I'm 43. I'm not 35 to 50. I may fall within that range, but people are so fearful of going, like honing in, but they don't realize that until you know the customer that you are trying to reach. I mean, like know them. Know them. For all of my companies, my avatars have a name, and I can tell you like what they would watch on TV, where they would get their hair done, if they would, travel, if they have kids, and it allows me to meet them where they are. See, the trick about having a successful business is not that you want to tell the world that I can serve you. It's for you to treat your clientele, your avatar so well that other people are going to look over the fence and say, okay, whatever she's doing for them, I want some. None of us on this Zoom right here are Starbucks' avatar. They're not advertising to us. And I'm going to take a chance and say, all of us have purchased Starbucks. None of us is Chipotle's avatar. And Lord knows Chipotle has gotten plenty of my money. I think I got probably leftover Chipotle but I'm not their avatar. They're not marketing me there, but I am in there multiple times a week. So that's what the business owners need to understand before you launch a business, and I think that creative minds need to allow it to flow. Like, I think the universe created us and placed us here for a reason. So I'm not saying block your ideas, but once you get a good idea, test it, research it, figure out who needs this, because it may be that you are offering something to someone in Cleveland when you need to offer it to someone in Houston or Phoenix or something like that. And that could be that's not saying that it may not blow up in Cleveland at some point, but you've got to figure those things out. So that is the first thing that people need to do. Figure out what they're offering and then research who they want to offer it to.
Who they're selling their product to. That is true. And that's definitely what you got to do. And I feel like that's just the everyday life. We can kind of mix our business with ourselves, because we have to know that the type of person we are and what we want to attract in our lives. So we want to, make sure of that. And like I said, with the real estate and the business coaching, I feel like they go hand in hand, because like you said, you're building a legacy and you're telling people, okay, now let's get this credit together to get these properties, and you can basically have your own neighborhood.
Yeah.
If you think about
that's my goal.
That's your goal.
Blocks. Yeah.
I would love that.
I'm working on a financial institution right now. I'm actually working on a charter for a credit union. And that right there,
is a lot.
And I have had so many people that don't look like us kind of say, oh my gosh, but you do so much. That's so hard. And don't worry about that. And no, you can, and it almost is like empowering me even more because
Right.
the charter, well, the premise, I haven't finished writing the charter yet, but it's to help disconnected communities, to dismantle the system that intentionally kept home ownership from Black people. Let's just call it what it is. So I want a credit union that people like, for us, by us, that will be intentional about getting brown people, Black people home loans, and to hear other people tell me how, oh, people have tried that before and that's difficult, and that, but you're so successful in real estate. And I am, like, I'm doing very well selling houses, but it breaks my heart because most people who buy houses come from generations of people who already did. Or I do have many first in the family home buyers. However, it's not enough. Far too many disconnected communities, they're stuck in this cycle of renting. I'm even challenging some of the court and federal programs like Section 8 and things of that nature. Do you know that if Section 8 pays $1,500 a month for 20 years, which is the average, time frame,
right,
that's $300,000.
That's a house.
So that's 2 or 3, depending on where you're going. So you mean to tell me the government will pay for me to stay in bondage and rent, but you won't give me the resources? And quite frankly, you won't even give me $10,000 just to help me with a down payment so that I can get my own house. We've got to challenge. We've got to change. And this is why in 2021, I have vowed to support the Black man in business and in all that I do, because I believe that the dismantling of the Black household and us being so interdependent on all of these other things outside of our men it was the greatest trick that was ever pulled over our eyes. Because you mean to tell me a government is willing to pay $300,000 for something neither one of you will own? The government's not going to own it, and because it's usually leased by, and not that they're not getting kickbacks, but they're willing to give $300,000 for something you will never own and they won't own, or they won't own fully. But that you wouldn't even give me
buying a house.
$100,000 to buy a house. I don't care if it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath bungalow.
It's mine.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is mine.
So we have got, and that's why I always say speaking truth to power, because I'm gonna call it like I see it. On some things, I'm more conservative than others, but on other things, it's like I'm gonna call a spade, and we'll keep it moving. You can rock it from there. So it isn't just it definitely are certain powers that have intentionally suppressed us, but we've got to pull the wool off of our own eyes at some point and say, hold up. What is happening here?
Yeah, that is true.
What is happening here? And that's what I hope to do. And that's what I the energy and the intentionality that I choose to bring to everything I do, to speak truth to power, to say that what was done to Black families historically, and we ain't even got to go all the way back to slavery, although it's plenty of things that happen with, it's plenty of things that directly correlate now from slavery. But even there was massive fair housing discriminations dating back to 1993. Massive racial discrimination, and now on some level, I think it may be masked a little more, but I say that because oftentimes people say, well, you wasn't even born then, but my grandmother was. And I spent plenty of time with her. She remembers her grandmother who, was born before slavery ended, and yeah, so that is for me one of the things that I feel like as a whole we need to remember that, and not carry it as a burden or a badge, but use that as a stepping stone to say it ends today. It ends today. So that's why, like, the credit union, financial literacy, teaching families how to grow wealth through businesses, because it's only so much that you can sustain. That even goes to, like, for myself and my business, is hiring people. Like right now, I have about 5 or 6 people that work for me, like on a daily basis. And, 5 years ago, you wouldn't like, I still own businesses, but it was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, you know, like you have to start to incorporate yourself, you know, incorporate your mindset,
Right.
and realize that, you know, like the universe is going to give me what it's going to give me. Yes, I have employed, and you know, like sometimes it's almost unbelievable even to hear it come out of my mouth, but that is the truth. And we all, and there's nothing special about me. The universe is not cracking down and cracking open and showering blessings on me that it wouldn't shower on you or you or anyone else out there. We just walk past it. We don't speak it. We don't say it. And we don't take the time to get with coaches such as myself or people who are lighting and leading the path and saying, follow me if you want to reach a destiny or a goal. And that's the sad part for me, is that it's like I am willing to help anyone get there, but I've definitely learned to help those who got their hands raised. I'm not dragging people to the well no more, because I used to. Please, no, I'm telling you, I've got some good stuff, and I don't do that much anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. You can't, because we need to, you know, I tell people all the time, one word that I'm going to stick to for the rest of my life is accountability. I'm an adult. I was raised by a mother who was accountable for 3 children, working every day and taking care of her 3 children. And I had to do that. So I feel like people need to be accountable for themselves before they can sit here and downplay anything else anybody else can do. Like you said, you have led a lot of people to the well, but they chose not to drink that water. And that is not on you, that is on them. And they need to be accountable for what they did. And, you know, you kind of answered the question I wanted to ask, because March is International Women's Month.
Right.
And this year, you know, every year they have a theme. And this year their theme is choose to challenge. And I love that. So we've asked our blogger for the month and our our author, what is a challenge that they choose to do? And you basically said, and just tell us again, that your challenge that you choose to do is to support.
But well, like I said, to speak truth to power, to dismantle any entity that has intentionally kept the Black community from growing in the space of home ownership and owning property and building successful businesses. That is my challenge. My challenge is to speak to that, because what I've learned, and especially having success in corporate backgrounds, you know, previously, when you're doing what people want you to do, like, oh, you cool, high five, QB, you know, like, right. You know, when you're not ruffling any feathers or causing ripples in the water that are not concurrent with what they think you should, when you're just being the nice little, you know, like, I am talented, it just happens to be that I'm Black, but I am here and I'm going to serve and help. When you're in that role, I've realized that that's more manageable for people. But kind of speaking to what you said, I've got to be accountable to myself. And I cannot pretend that I don't see people that look like me struggling for, and I am there because I do possess, like I do lean more conservative. I am a registered Republican. People have what they want to say on that, but it doesn't mean that everything that they believe, you know, this is America. And I'm a Black woman. First and foremost, nothing is 100% for me, you know, but because we have a 2-party system, of those 2, I do lean more towards the Republican principles at this time. However, what I was going to say is, what amazes me, though, is when people are comfortable, when they see things that they can relate to. But if you disagree on one point, or you're like, well, on that one, I must say that I feel it's this, this, and this. It's like, oh, like, you know, it's like, oh, like hot potato, like, you know, like they're ready to drop you and things of that nature. But I have to be accountable to me. Yes, I can say that there are certain things in our community, going back to why I said, starting in 2021, I have dedicated my task my task force, my team, what we do, we are definitely reaching out to Black men to put them back at the forefront of our households, of our relationships, of our community. And that is something that as a Black woman, I see lots of things in my personal life and community life where I was even taught to negate Black men, or to be like, girl, you strong and powerful, and you don't need. So I can take ownership that, you know what, I played into that lie that I was told. However, were there outside factors like Section 8 and, like a whole bunch of other things that were intentionally introduced into our community? Yes. So my thing is, to agree with one doesn't mean that I can't take notice to issues with both. So I'm not saying that we as a people don't self-inflict things on ourselves. I have, it's still things that I am overcoming. Yeah, but even with that said, that does not mean that I can't address what the systemic problems have been, what systemically has kept people out. So while we're working on ourselves, I, and hopefully the coalition of people that I inspire along the way, will address the systemic things as we continue to nurture ourselves and work on ourselves and love on ourselves and things of that nature until we get to the place that we want to be. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I know I get excited and I go all the way out.
You go all the way. And that's fine, because that's what, like you said, I feel like that's what we need to hear. I think that to me is the main problem. People not being truthful with people. We need to, like you saying, me, that if I'm doing something wrong, you're going to say, now, Crystal, stop it. And I might say, oh, no, I'm good. But I need to hear it, because then I'm going to sit back and say, yeah, she was right. But, we got to, like I said, the accountability piece has to be held. And like I said, I love that you're challenging yourself to dismantle dismantle what we have learned for generations, for years, for decades. And that's what we have to do, even if it's like in our personal life and our professional life. Like, things have to change. And I feel like you're taking the back piece of it, because we have our younger people who coming out now and want to stand on the front line and go against the injustice towards our Black men, our Black women. I love that. But like you said, let me take it for a little step further, and let me show you how you can build a legacy.
Because how long can you stay, and I don't necessarily want to use the term at war, but how long can you sustain anything without the financial resources to do so? How long can you sustain, fixing dinner for a week if you don't have the finances to buy the food? How long can you sustain, living in general if you don't? How long can you sustain living where you live if you don't have the financial backing to continue to pay for that space? So and that goes back to what I was alluding to. I think we can handle more than one problem at a time. I think it's almost like our body. My liver doesn't do what my eyes do. My eyes don't do what my heart does. My heart doesn't do what my foot does. But thank God I want all of them. I need each one of them, and I need each one of them to be doing exactly what they need to do. So we need the eyes, if those are the people front line. We need the brain and the people coming up with strategies, such as myself. We need the heart of the movement, the people that are loving on us and things of that nature. And that goes back to why I think it is imperative, at least from my perspective, for us to put our households back together, or at least to admit that as Black women, and I know, like, I'm a business coach and I'm a realtor and all that, but first and foremost, like, I am a woman. And I know that there were lots of things that I was told that, looking back in my 40s now, I'm like, yeah, you're like that right there wasn't probably the best way to handle it.
Or it doesn't make sense now. Like, make sense of it for me. Let me understand it. Like, I tell people all the time, my mother worked 5 little jobs all through high school to make sure we had lights on, we had a phone, we had clothes, we had food. My stepfather took care of everything else. But like you said, I was lucky enough to have a man in my life that shows me this is what the man is supposed to do, and this is what the woman's supposed to do. It's just that my mother chose to work that much because that's how she was brought up by her mother, saying, you know, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your kids. And so like when I, you know, I mean, like I tell people all the time, I love my stepfather to death. Like my mother has been gone for about to be 21 years, 22 years. My stepfather is still in our life. And I tell people he is the model of a man that you will want, like you saying, to bring back the forefront of Black men in the household.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I get it. I get it. I'm not faulting anyone. I'm just saying I have began, and it started years ago. That was one of the first things that caused me to start separating from the Democratic Party, because you know, I grew up around heavy Democrats. It's hard to have Thanksgiving and stuff sometimes because, you know, like I see broader, you know, like not that some of the, not that there are not some real things that a certain party tackles that another one doesn't, but because I see broader, I'm like, well, for real, like if we really looking at who's working on our behalf or what policy gets us where we want to be, it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, quite frankly. But I will just say that I know that a lot of that came from pain and confusion, and sometimes, and we all do it, it's a coping mechanism. When you can't have what you need, or what you you know, like you figure out a way to circumvent that, to still be able to survive. I know as a young girl, I did not have my father, and it's a whole long story about that. Like he was he was close by, but he didn't really claim my twin brother and I would ask my family about him on my mother's side all the time, and they would just, girl, you don't need him, and I understood as an adult, and even as a kid on some level, I understood that like they want me to be strong, but no one ever explained to me, but why do I dream about this person that I don't have a relationship with? Why do I think about this person that I don't know, and everyone tells me you don't need them? So I understand why things were done, but it doesn't mean that we have to just leave brokenness and inconsistent patterns and, you know, and automatically thinking negatively about Black men or Black women. You know, like we just need to acknowledge we all were lied to. We all did the best that we could in the circumstances that we were in. But as of right now, I'm here now, and I can admit to, okay, I contributed, but this is what I'm going to do to heal or to make it better. Because anyone who knows me, and I pray that hold me accountable to this, you know, as I continue to blow up, you know, as I continue to become a better version of self, I always want to be a solution provider. So we can all sit on the stoop and point to what's wrong and who did that and why this isn't working. I have always come from a place of solutions, and I hope that I am doing a good job of laying those out by offering, like we did, the pillars of the community. It was a free business course for Black men. You know, like I just want to be a like to give solutions, because that, quite frankly, is how God designed me. When I hear a problem or see a problem, and people think I'm so patient, but it isn't that. I'm a problem solver. So when things are going chaotic, like my brain instantly starts computing, like okay, so here we have it. If you move there and you pull this, like that's just how I am. And I do not want to get to the point that I have separated myself where I'm like, y'all figure that out on y'all own, I'm good over here. You know, I always want to leave an unburned bridge, so they're like, hey, even if you're not ready now, just know that there's a bridge right here that when you're ready, come across. So that is the legacy that I want to leave for myself, for the greater community, because that's how we all get there, you know.
Now, if you could recommend one book, what book would you recommend to read?
The Color of Law right now. The Color of Law, LAW. The Color of Law. I read so many books, but I've just read that book twice, back to back. And it's about the housing injustices throughout America, the laws and the systems that were in place to essentially keep the Black community impoverished, and how the U.S. government broke its own constitution, especially the 5th, the 14th, 15th, and 16th amendments, when in terms of how it should have protected Black people and not allowed us to become second-class citizens. But the color of law would be something that it's what I am building a lot of my foundations on moving forward, because housing and owning successful businesses is the platform that I stand on. I support many other things, but you can only have a few platforms if you want to be successful. So business and real estate are the platforms that I stand on. And that book is a great place to start. It's a great place to educate yourself. It's a great place for communities outside of ourselves to see that when you see these ghettos or these urban communities, that was by design and by full support of the United States government. And people need to, but when people think that you perpetuated your own downfall, and let's be real, like think of family members or somebody that you just like, they just won't get it right. You have a little less sympathy for someone that you think is causing their own demise than for someone that you see, wow, nothing, just man, every outside force is against them. So that the color of law, I think that everyone in America should read that book so that we can address the previous systematic racism, so that we can continue to fight for reparations, which we shouldn't have to fight for, and continue to move forward and progress into the next century and beyond.
So do you what's next? I know, like you said, you're building legacies, you're doing business coaching, you're doing real estate. What else do you want to do? I mean, and we know that you're out here talking about what, you have all these different platforms. Is there another platform you want to be in? Let me just give a little backstory. So I met Quinn, it's been probably about 10 years now? Almost? Yeah, and when I first met her, I met her in church. Yes, I went to church. So, and she tells me all the time, I have calmed down a little bit. You think?
A wee bit. You still my crystal. My crystal.
Yes. But what I love, like she said, whenever Quinn has an idea, she knows it's going to work, she's going to do it. Now, everybody is starting to know you from the business side, but I know you from the personal to business, but also the fashion side.
Yeah.
Quinn has had 4 or 5, no, I'm gonna say 5.
7 years.
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, I
7 years, 4 cities.
7 years, 4 cities, and she has done what is called Faith and Fashion Week. And I love it. She has put so many hairstylists, photographers on the map. She's brought people out. She's turned, like they say, she's turned caterpillars into butterflies. And I love
it so much.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, you know how I feel about your girls. Because I always say my favorite Brunson girl, and they're like, Miss Crystal, we're all your favorites. So because it's hard to choose. But especially with Jalea, her middle child, I swear I'm just amazed. And then you done brought Anaya into it. Yeah. And she's doing the dang on thing. But, tell us a little bit about, your faith and fashion. And are you thinking about revisiting that again? I mean, I know you're busy, but
yeah, Faith and Fashion Week is it is very heartfelt for me, and last year we couldn't do it because of COVID. So 2020, and even this year we were considering it, and it's it would be limited and things of that nature. So I have not lost the fashion piece. Today I got a what you call it, a serum on my face, so I'm not wearing makeup or anything today, but usually I'm dolled up and all that, but it's still, it's all right. But I will say that I am rebranding my websites and things of that nature. I do have some aspirations to move forward in the political arena, and that may be because I'm such an activist, that I'm just working through what that will look like. You know, when you're an advocate and you speak truth to power, sometimes that doesn't kind of flow right politically. But I say all that to say, I have finally reached a point, because even with Faith and Fashion Week, I kind of stay behind the scenes, like
Right.
put me behind the scenes. You know, I put stuff together, I make stuff happen. But I have started to make the transition to putting myself more in the forefront. So with that, fashion and lifestyle will definitely be on the scene. The platform is more business because the success that Faith and Fashion Week had, and like you said, the people that have been put on the map by it, I won't call names, but they know, you know, who they are, you know,
Yeah.
it was because, you know, I was and even though I was learning, and I'm still learning, but I was a savvy businesswoman. I could, you know, like think of an idea, see how to market it, and then make it happen. You know, like I was literally taking 3 girls, my 3 small children at the time, renting vans and driving, you know, to cities and putting on this fashion week to show people how to love themselves from the inside out. So Faith and Fashion Week is not, it's not like done, like dismissed. We were unable to do it in 2020. Fashion will always be a part of me. I'm actually working on launching a clothing line, more like business attire. However, the premise, the main platform is business development. So we'll see. So as I kind of I like the analogy you used about the caterpillar to butterfly, because that's kind of happening for myself. So as I'm going from being very comfortable being behind the scenes and the strategist to coming to the forefront, you will see more things to get to know Quintaria and the fashion component, and the things that I did with Faith and Fashion Week are some of the things that are will be spot, you know, like people will be able to learn more about Quintaria, and that will be one of the places that they can learn what I did.
I've been advocating for her to come to Atlanta to do one. I mean, she has talked about it. I mean, yeah, I have been with you to some of the cities and I loved it. And I will never, ever forget any of the time we had, especially going to Detroit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was an awesome opportunity. And I am so blessed, which is one of the main reasons why I want other people to know there's nothing special about me. If I can pick up and barely have, you know, $2 to my name and take an idea from city to city to city, like, so can you, you know.
Yep.
So
and
can
that's
you.
Anything. And as the guy Rel saying, that's on Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Where the money reside.
Yes, where the money reside. So can you just let us know about your social media? Where can we find QB, Quintaria Brunson? You know, because anybody know we call it Q, we call it Quinn, we call it QB. So where can we find you at?
I am on, I'm on every social media platform. I'm on Instagram and it's Brunson Approach, my last name, Brunson Approach. I'm on Facebook as Quintaria Brunson, and the business page is The Brunson Approach. On Twitter and Linktree and all that, LinkedIn, I'm sorry, it's Quintaria or Brunson Approach. So Google Brunson Approach and it should take you wherever, but Brunson Approach, The Brunson Approach, or Quintaria Brunson.
Thank you. So I have one question that I want you to just drop one piece of information for our business people that listen, but not even just for business people. So if I decide to take something that has been a hobby that and people have been paying for it, and I want to turn it into a business, what is the first thing that I should do?
Well, before I even give you step 1, step 0 is to already empower yourself and be excited for yourself, because that hobby, you're already participating in commerce. You're already creating something that other people are buying, or providing a service that other people are using. So that's step 0. Just take pride and ownership in that. Then the next thing you need to do is what I said before: research, write your business plan, and understand before you bring that to full force to market. Just make sure that you understand the business, the goal of your business, who you'll market it to, and things of that nature. Maybe a 1B would be to make sure that you check check like the trademark and patent office, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Check to make sure that the name that you're using is available and things of that nature. Check to make sure you don't need specific licenses in order to do it, because oftentimes we have these great ideas. That's one thing too, and I see it all the time. You see people, with these handmade creams and ointments and different stuff like that, and some of them, I can see like, ooh, that might be a violation. Or I wonder if they double checked if they're less than 2% lidocaine or things like that. And that's because I know from setting up businesses, but just check to make sure that from a corporate level that you don't leave yourself exposed, which is another reason business entities are a huge importance, because we do live in a litigious society. And if someone wants to sue, or if your product doesn't perform like it's supposed to, and your social all over it, they're coming for you and your assets. Whereas an actual business will provide you at least some form of a hedge of protection. And I can't say, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not saying like, oh, that provides 100%, but it definitely provides a buffer, another level of protection between you and your service or product that you're offering. So do the research, do the hard work of planning whatever you need to do, and make sure that you get your licenses, and make sure you know the trademark. You just make sure that your business can be in business, be it the name and things of that nature, because I've seen it far too often. People will launch something and you're getting an infringement, a cease and desist letter, because you didn't check. Remember, I used to have to do it for Faith and Fashion Week all the time. I used to always have to send letters out, because people would just, and it's like, no, I kind of paid for the trademark on this. Like, I'm excited for you, but it's like, I need you to do the work. I need you to do the work too.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Quite a bit. So
we definitely did. It took a lot from it, and just getting to learn you more and knowing what you're doing. And I, me, I'm here till the wheels fall off, and I can't.
Well, thank you, ladies. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. All righty. So thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Yes, Two Girls with the Mic. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.